Good evening, I'm Klaudia Czerwińska and you're watching World News Tonight live from Warsaw. We are dealing with an unprecedented event. This is perhaps the most serious situation in the context of Poland's security since the outbreak of the full-scale war in Ukraine, said Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. His words come as the two people suspected of sabotaging a railway line in Poland were revealed to be Ukrainians who collaborated with Russian intelligence and then fled to Belarus. More on that in just a moment, but first, tonight's headlines. In Serbia, the mother of a Novi Sad victim ends her 16-day-long hunger strike but vows to continue her fight for justice. The cryptocurrency market registers a $1 trillion loss over 6 weeks. And controversial German auction cancelled after Poland slammed sale of Holocaust artifacts. Poland has identified two culprits responsible for a major act of sabotage, the Polish Prime Minister has announced. Two Ukrainian men collaborating with Russia are suspected of blowing up a railway line, a major artery used for providing help to Ukraine. Under mounting security pressure, questions arise. Is the protection of critical infrastructure feasible? And what should NATO's response be? Kazimierz Łysiak has more in his latest report.
Polish rail trucks, such as the one you can see behind me, are now a target of sabotage. A piece of truck was blown up on Sunday on a line leading to Ukraine, and now Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has confirmed that it has been done by Ukrainian citizens hired by Russia. One of the most serious hybrid attacks on Poland since the start of the war in Ukraine.
They are two citizens of Ukraine who have worked with Russian intelligence for some time now. That has been established by our investigators and prosecution in cooperation with our allies.
This piece of truck was damaged by a remotely detonated C4 bomb on Sunday morning. But a second explosive failed to go off, which most likely prevented a massive disaster in the form of a derailed train.
A certain line was crossed. We could have seen a terrible tragedy with many victims. That's what I mean by crossing a line. The situation is very, very serious.
The government has introduced a third level of terrorist threat near several crucial railway lines. Even though no one was hurt, the Polish military sees it as a major escalation from Russia.
The adversary has begun preparing for war. They are building a certain environment here intended to create favorable conditions for potential aggression on Polish territory.
Immediately after the incident, the two perpetrators fled the country to Belarus, Russia's de facto puppet state. This will likely make it problematic to bring them to justice, although Polish officials are determined to make it happen.
I'm heading to my office now to call Russian and Belarusian representatives and demand they hand over the perpetrators.
In exclusive comments for TVP World, the Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister said he's not surprised by Russia being behind this incident.
I know that Russia tries to undermine our unity with Poland. I know how they use all sorts of falsifications and other pretexts, starting with the issue of Volhynia and when their drones flew over Poland. We saw how many slanders were directed at Ukraine.
Moscow, on the other hand, denies responsibility, with a rather poor choice of words on top of it.
In Poland, let's put it this way, everyone is trying to get ahead of the European locomotive in this regard, and Russophobia is, of course, flourishing in full bloom.
The big question now is how Poland and NATO can respond to yet another serious hybrid attack from Russia.
It's a favorite saying in the United States that revenge is a dish served best cold. And so, we should just, be calm, cool, competitive. Our capabilities are unmatched, not only at NATO, but as the United States, and we will respond appropriately, if and when we determine it's necessary.
According to analysts, Western countries are limited by the very rules that make them different from totalitarian regimes.
We all know that this entity that would benefit most from attacking us would probably be Russian Federation, because we are messing with their attacking Ukraine. But we don't have proof.
But if we do, if we find a person, if we catch them in the act.
We find a person, but how do we prove that they are working for the Russian government?
That's one of the main reasons why Russia keeps hiring Ukrainians or other nationals to conduct these acts of sabotage, not only in Poland but also other European countries. It's a cost-effective way of decreasing public support for Ukraine.
Primary front line of hybrid warfare goes through our minds, through our brains. It's about scaring us, it's about destabilizing us, it's about polarizing the society.
And Poland can't do much apart from summoning Russian diplomats. Warsaw already invoked NATO's Article 4 after several dozen Russian decoy drones violated Poland's airspace in September. This resulted in the alliance strengthening its presence in the eastern flank, an example with additional French fighter jets. Russia denied responsibility. Luckily, no one was hurt in this particular incident, but Polish authorities need to be on the lookout for any new threats to avoid a potential tragedy in the future. While Poland may not be at war with Russia in the traditional sense, hybrid warfare is very much here. From Warsaw, Kazimierz Łysiak, TVP World.
This development marked another step in Ukraine diversifying its energy portfolio and securing the sector ahead of what could otherwise turn into a very difficult winter. The country has just received its first delivery of American liquefied natural gas via Lithuania's Klaipeda import terminal. This is anticipated to be one of several deliveries that will boost energy security in light of continuous Russian attacks targeting Ukraine's energy grid. Jakub Kapiszewski reports.
Battered by Russian attacks and struggling to keep its citizens warm, Ukraine needs to source natural gas from abroad.
This winter, for sure, will be the most difficult. We do need to import more additional volume of imported gas. American LNG.
The country just received its first shipment of American LNG sent to a terminal in the Lithuanian port of Klaipeda. It's one of the many routes Kyiv can use to supply its citizens with natural gas. Ukraine already imports gas from Poland, Hungary and Slovakia. On Sunday, the country signed a contract with Greece.
Our agreements with Greece today are an important part of the large energy package that we've prepared for this winter to provide Ukraine with gas.
This winter, Kyiv will have to shell out around $1 billion extra to import the fuel from abroad. Before the war, Ukraine produced 20 billion cubic meters of gas, but recent attacks have knocked out a lot of domestic extraction.
Ukraine has relied heavily on gas extracted from its own production sources. Before the war, they covered about 70 to 80% of the country's demand for natural gas. Now that domestic production is severely hindered.
Before November, Kyiv managed to store around 12 billion cubic meters of the fuel. But additional supplies are needed to get the country through the winter, hence the new import contracts.
Little can match the grief caused by a mother's loss of her child. This is a story of Dijana Hirka, the mother of one of the victims of the Novi Sad railway station canopy collapse, whose 16-day-long hunger strike has come to an end. But her fight for justice continues, backed by thousands of protesters across Serbia who are calling for the resignation of President Aleksandar Vučić. Our Balkans correspondent Paweł Trzaskowski brings us more in his next report.
16 days. This is how long Diana Hirka's hunger protest lasted.
I received a blessing from 2 priests to end the strike, and I also received messages from medical workers and people from many other places.
Her son died in the collapse of a canopy at a railway station in Novi Sad, an event that sparked nationwide student protests. Although she's ended her strike, she vows to remain in front of the parliament.
I truly will not betray my people. Some may want to see me dead, but I believe I am more needed alive.
For more than 2 weeks, crowds of anti-government protesters have been gathering to support her.
We still live in some hope, and that's why we come here regularly.
One of the protesters' demands is government transparency and eventual accountability for the Novi Sad disaster. The government did provide some documentation pertaining to the Novi Sad reconstruction that preceded the collapse, but crucial files are still missing. I talked about it with one of the experts who analyzed the available documentation.
And why does the government refuse to give these documents? What do you think?
I think that the possible answer is maybe the role of the government in all this process. when it comes to choosing the subcontractors, when it comes to contractors with the main contractor, with their subcontractors, as well as the in position of the investor and financier.
Apart from accountability, the protesters are also demanding snap elections. President Vučić did promise to hold them earlier than scheduled, but did not provide a specific date. However, the strategy of partial concessions seems to be working for him and the ruling Serbian Progressive Party. Western partners are not giving them the cold shoulder, and any reprimand comes couched in very tentative words, like during today's visit of the German foreign minister to Belgrade.
I explained that Serbia, as the economically strongest country in the region with the largest number of inhabitants, has the greatest importance in the Western Balkans and must decide to commit itself to the European course and the harmonization of foreign and security policy, because it sends mixed signals that are incompatible with the basic values of the EU.
But Serbia is still being invited to open the third cluster of EU accession negotiations. And although crowds still gather in front of the National Assembly and minor scuffles with the police occur, President Vučić and his SNS party are staying the course. Paweł Trzaskowski for TVP World.
Recent developments in the world of finance might not bring good news to those who made significant investments in the cryptocurrency sector. The crypto market shed more than $1 trillion in 6 weeks, a notable drop from October 2025, when Bitcoin itself experienced an all-time high. And as the flagship cryptocurrency saw a 30% drop in value, the Central and Eastern Europe market is watching closely due to significant crypto popularity among investors. Maciej Wilowski has more in his report.
After years of tremendous gains, crypto investors are feeling the pain of falling prices. The price of Bitcoin, the world's biggest cryptocurrency by market value, is down almost 30% from its all-time high of $126,000 hit in early October. Since then, falling prices have wiped away roughly $1 trillion from the global crypto market. The reason? A broad sell-off in risk assets, or financial assets that tend to have volatile price swings and are considered riskier investments. Stocks, high-yield bonds, and cryptocurrencies all fall under this category.
There is a risk that there is a bubble on the market, the financial bubble.
Crypto prices are closely correlated to tech stocks like Nvidia, Apple, or Amazon, which have fallen in recent weeks due to fears of overvaluation.
The price of Bitcoin is very correlated with the price of technological companies. So actually it is not a gold, which is a safe haven. It is a speculative asset.
Until recently, tech stocks had soared, fueled by enthusiasm surrounding artificial intelligence, but concerns over rising debt tied to AI investments have taken the air out of the tech bubble.
You have so many companies that are chasing the AI train. And, the market is really concerned about the level of spending that is going towards AI.
Falling asset prices will undoubtedly impact investors in Poland, where the number of crypto users has surged in recent years.
In August this year, this figure was estimated to be almost 7 million people.
And when it comes to crypto penetration, Eastern European countries as a whole perform well. That's one of the findings of a report from blockchain data platform Chainalysis. Adjusted for population size, 3 countries in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia, top the charts globally in crypto penetration, with Latvia, Slovenia, and Estonia also ranking in the top 15. In Ukraine, cryptocurrencies have become an effective way for citizens to protect their savings amid war and economic instability.
Probably only Ukraine is the most advanced in Europe.
According to the report's authors, strong technical literacy and distrust of traditional financial institutions have led to high rates of crypto adoption in the region. While crypto investors in CEE countries certainly aren't immune from recent market turmoil, rising crypto adoption stands to reshape the region's financial landscape. Maciej Wilowski for TVP World.
623 personal items, 623 silent witnesses to stories of despair, fear, and doom. Sacred to many, intimate memorabilia belonging to those who perished in Nazi German concentration camps, as well as victims of Soviet crimes, were put up for sale at an auction organized in Western Germany, sparking international controversy. Alexandra Bulenda explains.
An auction offering some of the most intimate traces of the Holocaust. Stars of David from Buchenwald, sterilization records from Dachau, escape passports, medical files and the wartime notebook of a Polish survivor has been shut down in Germany after global outrage. Survivor groups condemned the sale as cynical and shameless. After Polish intervention, the listings vanished within hours. TVP World asked Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski whether systemic safeguards are needed to prevent similar auctions.
One such distasteful auction apparently took place in the same auction house in 2019. The then government did not intervene. This time we intervened quickly and with results. Items that name victims, items that belong to victims should not be subjects of commerce. They belong to archives, to museums, or to the families of the victims.
Jewish leaders say the handling of such items cannot be reduced to procedure alone.
If these objects did come from Poland, and if somehow they were stolen from Poland, then morality says that they should return to Poland. Ideally, these things should always be in a place that could educate the public, not to have in someone's personal collection.
Historians, on the other hand, warn that the issue is more complex than a single auction.
We really have to remember that there is something like market for such a memorabilia, and we should protest. We really should take care of it. But we really have to remember that for a museum, for many institutions, such market is as well an option, a way of obtaining, the very artifacts.
The auction, titled System of Terror 1933-1945 Part 2, was set to include more than 620 items. And after appeals from Warsaw, the listings disappeared from the website late Sunday. For now, the sale is cancelled. The real test now is whether Europe can build mechanisms strong enough to stop these objects from surfacing again. Because when the past keeps returning to auction, it is not only memory that is at stake, but dignity itself. For TVP World, I'm Alexandra Bulenda.
Exactly 60 years ago, Polish bishops sent a letter to their German counterparts. A letter that was perhaps one of the boldest and most consequential initiatives aimed towards reconciling the shared painful history of World War II and German crimes committed in Poland. Many of the signatories were survivors of concentration camps. More on the historic significance of this anniversary in Gabriela Fesnak's report.
On November 18, 1965, 36 Polish bishops signed a letter addressed to their German counterparts. In the letter, they sought reconciliation with the German bishops, writing, "We forgive and ask for forgiveness," and invited them to participate in the following year's celebrations marking 1,000 years of Christianity in Poland.
At that time, the letter was revolutionary and showed that despite having different historic backgrounds and various limitations, people can seek reconciliation.
Written 20 years after the end of the Second World War, the letter extended an olive branch to the Western German Catholic Church, bringing forgiveness for the horrors of the Nazi occupation. Many of the signatories were themselves concentration camp survivors.
The correspondence between Polish and German bishops was fundamental to achieving European integration. It could be said that these letters are embedded in the fabric of a united Europe.
The letter received a lukewarm response from the German side and infuriated Poland's communist government, who, fearing the slightest form of reconciliation with West Germany, launched a propaganda campaign against the Catholic Church. Nevertheless, it remains one of the most significant post-World War II initiatives of Polish-German reconciliation, celebrated by an annual mass attended by representatives of both dioceses. For TVP World, Gabriela Fesnak.
To continue the important discussion on the subject of a difficult shared history and the future of Polish-German relations amid new modern-day security challenges posed by Russia, it is my pleasure to welcome back on the show Rolf Nickel, former German ambassador to Poland. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining me on the program tonight.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. As we look at the Polish-German relations, can history be reversed and Poland and Germany can work hand in hand to counter the risk posed by Russia? Or perhaps the wounds from the past are still too deep to have both nations change course? What's your opinion?
No, I think it's absolutely possible, and more than that, it's necessary. I remember when I was ambassador in Poland from 2014 to 2020, we were far ahead already on that road to reconciliation. Of course, we have to remember what happened. We have to be aware of the atrocities committed by Germany at the time. No question about this. But today, in this world in which we live, in this world in turmoil, where Russia is aggressing a neighboring country, it's absolutely necessary that we stick together. And one of the fundamentals of this sticking together is a reconciliation. And to be quite frank, we were more far ahead a couple of years ago than we are now, which is kind of astonishing. But that's the situation.
I would like to follow up with what you just said, because we do have the latest report, Polish-German Barometer 2025 by the Deutsches Polen Institute, according to which we read 32% of Poles feel sympathy towards Germans. 1 in 4 respondents expresses dislike. This, as we read, is a dramatic decline in sentiment. And by comparison, 42% of Germans express sympathy towards Poles. The percentage of those expressing antipathy has dropped significantly to 9%, the lowest level since the survey began 25 years ago. What do you think? What would be your solution to bridge the existing gap?
Well, it's a very complicated issue. I agree. The Polish-German barometer, which was just published, is, in my view, very, very worrisome, because it really shows that we are at a very low point in this polls, and something has to be done about this. And this is, I mean, we have different levels of relationship. We have the relationship on the grassroots level. We have the relationship between the countries. We have the relationship between the governments. And it's really, really very important that on the government level, we keep up business-like and also bilateral relationship that satisfies the needs of both sides. And I think that is possible, and it should be developed. Problem, unfortunately, is that we had, for quite a long time, we had a government in Poland which did not really further reconciliation. I remember when I was ambassador, the figures were much higher. And after the government of the peace, the figures declined. So there must be a reason for that.
So we've seen that the change has happened since that time in Poland, and I would like to bring a quote from Germany that came straight from Germany. "I do not currently see any danger to Germany from Russia," said German politician Tino Czurpala on ZDF's talk show, while arguing that, quote, "Poland can also be a danger." Czurpala, to give our viewers a word of explanation, is the co-chair of the far-right populist Alternative for Germany, which currently leads German polls with about 26% support ahead of the ruling CDU-CSU. According to what I've just read, what signal does the emergence of the far-right extremist parties such as the AfD in Germany give to countries such as Poland based on our history, especially in light of Germany planning on growing its Bundeswehr?
It's a disastrous statement. There's no question about this. But one should not overestimate the significance of AfD. They have grown in popularity. That's true, because of a couple of decisions that have been made by Germany and which have sort of fueled their popularity. but they have no influence on the political system right now. They are not members of the government. They try to tell people all kinds of things, and I would not overestimate what they say. It's in any case an absolutely non-acceptable statement, which I totally condemn.
They might be not a risk now, but considering the growing sympathy to the AFD, is there, in your opinion, anything to be truly worried about?
Well, I mean, this is unfortunately a phenomenon which we have in other countries of Europe as well. Look at other countries where the extreme right is even more important in the polls than it is in Germany. I don't want to deny that it's worrisome that they are where they are, but we should not over exaggerating. We should not exaggerate that meaning. All the Democrats in Germany and abroad should work together to kind of limit the influence of these right wing parties. But look at France, look at the Czech Republic, look at Hungary, and look at a number of other countries, and you see it's not an isolated phenomenon in Germany.
Considering more recent German past and somewhat pro-Russian sympathies before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, do you think that Germany has finally reached a point and is fully conscious of breaking away completely from that working relationship with Russia?
I think we have made enormous progress on that road. And I have written in my book, I was very critical of the situation before, but now so-called Zeitenwende is real. It may have been slow, and it may have been not completely complete, but it's going into the right direction. And I think we're now more united than we were ever before on the threat that is constituted by Russia. And we work together, and we should continue to work together. And for that, we need to be as united as possible. And everything that disunites us only serves the Russians, only serves the aggressor. So let's keep together, let's continue on that. And I hope that during the government consultations, which will take place in Berlin on December 1st, we will continue to walk on that path.
I would also like to touch upon the subject of the very controversial and quite frankly atrocious auction that almost took place in Germany. We've heard from Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski, who on his X platform wrote on Sunday, quote, "The memory of Holocaust victims is not a commodity and cannot be subject to commercial trade." In your opinion, do auction houses have the right to sell memorabilia belonging to the victims of the Nazi and Soviet regimes? I mean, is 80 years enough to desensitize, enough to make a dime for somebody's tragedy?
No, of course not. I think the Polish foreign minister is completely right. He had a phone call with the German foreign ministers. They both agreed that this auction is shameless and unacceptable, and it had to be cancelled, and it was cancelled. And I think that was absolutely the right decision. Memorabilia of that sort are not up, should not be up for sale for this dish. They should be in museums. They should belong to the families of the victims, and not being sold for whatever price on auctions. That's unacceptable.
Do you think that there's going to be legislation following up, international legislation, at least in Europe, to make sure that such cases never take place again?
Well, we'll see. I think what has to take place now first is that there is an investigation ongoing to whom these memorabilia, these items belong. Apparently, when you talk about letters, you have addresses, you have names, and so you have indications as to whom it belongs, whom they belong. So that is the first thing that should be done, and then we'll have to see whether some sort of international, I don't know whether legislation is the right word, but some sort of regulation that forbids this. But also, I mean, it's a question of human judgment. I mean, how can somebody, taking into account the suffering of those people, try to make money out of it? I mean, in my view, that is weird. I can't say otherwise.
Definitely a question of human judgment. Very briefly, because our time on the show, unfortunately, is coming to an end. Today marks exactly 60 years since the Polish bishops sent a letter of reconciliation to their German counterparts. What makes you hopeful about the Polish-German relations?
First of all, I think this 60 years were really, or this bishop letter was really an important event. And what makes me today content, satisfied, is that we have, on the level of the grassroots level, I meet so many people from Germany who have close contacts now with their Polish counterparts. There are lots of people, of Poles working in Germany and the other way around. There's a lot of economic exchange ongoing. And so there is a lot of hope for this relationship to develop further in the future. But I think we need those kinds of events like the one that happened 60 years ago. And we need to commemorate them to make people aware of what happened and make them aware of the grandiose ideas behind the Polish bishop's letter. I think 20 years after World War II, that was really amazing and really should be a guiding post for us living today.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. Rolf Nickel, former German ambassador to Poland, was my guest on World News Tonight. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for having me. All the best. Bye-bye.
Pleasure. And so this would be all for now. Thank you for joining me. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska, and I hope to see you back here on TVP World in just a moment for more news and features. Good night.